Listen to me with your whole heart, because what I am about to say is not small, not casual, not ordinary. This is not a gentle idea meant to comfort you for a moment and then disappear. This is a truth that can shake your soul, rearrange your identity, and redefine the way you see yourself when you wake up in the morning and when you lie down at night. God is not distant from you. God is not tolerating you. God is not merely watching you from afar with folded arms and measured patience. God is madly in love with you. Not in a shallow way, not in a temporary way, not in a way that depends on your performance, your perfection, or your past. God's love for you is intense, deliberate, passionate, and unrelenting. It is a love that pursued you before you ever thought to pursue him. A love that knew your weaknesses before you admitted them. A love that saw your failures before they happened and still chose you without hesitation. You have lived too long believing that God's love must be earned, that his affection is fragile, that one mistake could push him away, that your flaws disqualify you from his attention. But hear this clearly. God does not love you because you are strong. He loves you because he is good. God does not love you because you are faithful. He loves you because he is faithful. God does not love you because you always choose right. He loves you because his love is not built on your choices, but on his unchanging nature. If God's love depended on your consistency, it would collapse. If it depended on your righteousness, it would vanish. But God's love depends on God himself, and that is why it is unbreakable. There are people listening who secretly believe that God is disappointed in them. You pray, but you pray with fear. You worship, but you worship with shame. You try to be good, but you feel like you are always falling short. You assume that God is watching you with a checklist, marking your failures, counting your mistakes, and waiting for you to finally get it right. But that image is not the truth. God is not a cold judge hovering over your life. God is a loving creator who knows your frame, who understands your struggle, who sees the war inside your heart, and who does not turn away from you because of it. God's world is not offended by your weakness. It moves toward it. You must understand this deeply. God does not love a future version of you. He does not love the you that will someday be better, more disciplined, more spiritual, more obedient. God loves you now, right now in your confusion, in your fear, in your doubts, in your inconsistencies, in your unanswered questions, in your silent tears. God's love does not wait for your improvement. It meets you where you are and gives you the strength to grow. If you are waiting to feel worthy before you draw near to God, you will wait forever. You draw it near because you are loved, not so that you may be loved. There is a fire in God's heart when he looks at you. Not a fire of anger, not a fire of rejection, but a fire of desire. God desires you to know him, to trust him, to rest in him. He desires your heart, not your performance. He desires your honesty, not your pretending. He desires your surrender, not your perfection. You were never created to impress God. You were created to walk with him. You were never created to earn his affection. You were created to receive it. Many of you have confused reverence with fear and humility, with self-hatred. You think honoring God means shrinking yourself, silencing your worth, and constantly reminding yourself how unworthy you are. But true humility is not denying that you are loved. It is agreeing with God about how deeply you are loved. When you reject yourself, you are not being humble. You are disagreeing with the one who formed you. When you despise yourself, you are not honoring God. You are rejecting his workmanship. God does not make mistakes, and you are not one. God knows every chapter of your story. He knows the parts you hide, the memories you tried to forget, the regrets that still whisper to you in quiet moments. He knows what was done to you and what you have done, and still his well has not wavered. Still, his desire for you has not cooled. Still, his mercy reaches for you. This is not a weak love. This is not a fragile affection. This is a love stands firm in the face of your worst moments. A love that does not run when you stumble. A love that does not withdraw when you struggle. A love that does not abandon when you are lost. You may feel far from God, but distance is not created by God's absence. It is created by your perception. God has never stepped away from you. Even in your darkest night, even in your most rebellious season, even when you ignored him, he was near. God's love does not flicker on and off. It does not rise and fall with your emotions. It is constant, steady, and strong. You can run from it, but you cannot outrun it. You can deny it, but it does not disappear. You can resist it, but it continues to pursue you. God's love is not passive, it is active. It seeks, it calls, it invites, it corrects. When God corrects you, it is not because he is angry with you. It is because he cares for you. Indifference would ignore you. Love engages you. When God speaks to your heart about change, it is not rejection. It is invitation. He is not pushing you away. He is drawing you closer to the person you were created to be. Some of you have built identity on your failures. You introduce yourself to yourself through your mistakes. You wake up every day carrying labels that God never gave you. You say you are broken, unworthy, forgotten, rejected. But God calls you chosen, known, seen, and loved. You must decide whose voice will define you. The voice of your past or the voice of God. The voice of fear or the voice of love. The voice of condemnation or the voice of mercy. God's voice does not shame you. It awakens you. Understand this truth. God's love is not proven by the absence of trouble. It is proven by his presence within it. Life will challenge you. Storms will come. Questions will arise. But none of these things are evidence that God has stopped loving you. If anything, they become places where his love can be revealed more deeply. God does not abandon his beloved in difficulty. He walks with them through it. His love is not fragile glass that shatters under pressure. It is a foundation that holds when everything else shakes. God is madly in love with you, and that love is not theoretical. It is personal. It is intentional. It is specific. God does not love humanity in general and forget individuals. He knows your name. He knows your thoughts before you speak them. He knows your needs before you ask. He knows your tears before they fall. You are not invisible to God. You are not overlooked. You are not forgotten. His attention toward you is not divided or distracted. You may ask why. If God loves you so deeply, you still feel empty at times. The answer is not that God's love is lacking. It is that you've been trying to fill eternal spaces with temporary things. You have searched for validation in people who are limited, in achievements that fade, in possessions that cannot speak to your soul. But your heart was designed for God, and nothing else can take his place. When you return to the source, the emptiness begins to lose its power. God's love is not a license to remain unchanged. It is the power that transforms you. When you truly know you are loved, fear loses its grip. Shame loses its voice. Striving loses its urgency. You stop trying to prove your worth and start living from it. Obedience becomes response, not pressure. Prayer becomes conversation, not performance. Trust becomes natural, not forced. Love changes how you live because it changes how you see yourself. There is a tenderness in God that many have never allowed themselves to experience. You know his greatness, but you have not known his gentleness. You know his authority, but you have not only his nearness. Yet God is not only majestic, he is attentive. He is not only powerful, he is compassionate. He is not only sovereign, he is personal. He bends close to the humble heart. He listens to the quiet cry. He responds to the sincere seeker. You must let go of the lie that says you are tolerated but not cherished. God does not put up with you. He delights in you. Your existence is not a burden to him. Your prayers are not interruptions. Your presence is not inconvenient. God takes joy in you because his love is not transactional. He does not weigh your value by what you give him. He loves you because you are his creation. Even now, God is inviting you to rest, not to withdraw from responsibility, but to release the exhausting effort of trying to earn what has already been given. Rest in his love. Rest in his acceptance. Rest in his faithfulness. When you rest in God, you stop running from yourself. You stop hiding behind masks. You stop pretending to be stronger than you are. And in that honest place, God meets you with grace. God's love will confront what is destroying you, but it will never destroy you. He will challenge your pride, but he will protect your heart. He will expose what is false, but he will heal what is wounded. His love is not soft in a way that leaves you broken. It is strong in a way that makes you whole. Every correction is wrapped in care. Every instruction is rooted in wisdom. Every command is motivated by love. You were created for intimacy with God, not distance. You were created for trust, not fear. You were created for purpose, not confusion. God's love is the beginning of clarity. When you know you are loved, you begin to see differently. You see yourself differently. You see others differently. You see your future differently. Love is not just something God gives. It is something God uses to shape your destiny. There are moments when you will not feel love. Your emotions will fluctuate. Your circumstances will speak loudly. But feelings are not the measure of truth. God's love does not disappear when you cannot sense it. Faith is choosing to believe what God has declared even when your heart feels uncertain. And as you continue to trust, the awareness of his love grows deeper, steadier, stronger. God is madly in love with you. And that love is calling you higher. Not higher into pride, but higher into purpose. Not higher into self-glory, but higher into alignment with his will. He is calling you to live as someone who is loved, not as someone who is desperate. Love people, love others. Love people, forgive. Love people, walk in courage. Love people, stand firm when storms rise. Do not reduce God's love to a small idea that fits neatly into your understanding. It is greater than your imagination, deeper than your pain, stronger than your fear. It reaches places you thought were unreachable. It heals wounds you thought were permanent. It restores hope you thought was lost. God's love is not exhausted by your need. It meets it. Let this truth settle into the deepest part of you. Let it challenge every lie you have believed about yourself. Let it silence the accusations that have followed you for years. Let it reshape the way you pray, the way you trust, the way you live. God is not mad at you. God is not disappointed in you. God is madly in love with you. And that love is present, powerful, and unending. God's love does not merely comfort you. It confronts the lies that have ruled you. It stands against every false narrative that told you that you were insignificant, disposable, or defined by your lowest moment. God's love speaks with authority into the deepest chambers of your heart and declares that your life has meaning beyond what? As you can see, beyond what you have experienced, beyond what others have said. When God loves, he does not whisper uncertainty. He proclaims purpose. His love does not leave you confused about your worth. It establishes it firmly, unshakably, eternally. There are seasons when God allows silence, not because his love has grown cold, but because he is teaching you to trust his character more than your emotions. Silence is not absence. Waiting is not rejection. Delay is not yet male. God's love often works beneath the surface, shaping roots before revealing fruit. You may not see immediate change, but transformation is taking place. The seed of love planted in your heart is growing. Even when the soil feels dark and the process feels slow, God's love is not intimidated by your questions. He is not threatened by your doubts. Honest struggle does not offend him. Pretense does. He invites you to bring your real self, not a polished version, not a rehearsed prayer, not a religious mask. God listens to the cry that comes from a sincere heart. He responds to truth even when that truth is messy. His love meets you in your honesty and leads you into clarity. You must understand that God's love is not reactive. It is intentional. He does not love you because of what you have done today. And he will not stop loving you because of what happens tomorrow. His love exists outside the limitations of time. It saw you before your first breath and will remain long after your final one. When God commits his love, he does not reconsider. When he chooses, he does not reverse his decision. You are not on probation with God. You are not living under constant threat of being cast aside. You are held by a love that does not waver. God's love teaches you how to see suffering differently. Pain no longer becomes proof of abandonment, but an invitation to deeper dependence. When you walk through hardship, knowing you are loved, despair does not have the final word. Fear may speak, but it does not rule. God's love becomes an anchor in the storm, a steady presence when everything else feels uncertain. You may not understand the path, but you trust the one who walks with you. There is power released when you stop fighting for God's approval and start living from it. Striving drains the soul, but resting in love restores it. When you know you are loved, obedience becomes a joy instead of a burden. Sacrifice becomes meaningful instead of painful. Faith becomes bold instead of fragile. God's love does not weaken your devotion. It strengthens it. It does not make you careless. It makes you courageous. God's love also reshapes how you see others. When you receive mercy, you become merciful. When you understand patience, you extend patience. When you are forgiven, you forgive. Love received becomes love expressed. A heart touched by God's love cannot remain closed, bitter, or hardened forever. Love softens what pain tried to harden. It heals what rejection tried to destroy. You were never meant to live driven by fear of punishment, but guided by assurance of love. Fear may produce temporary obedience, but love produces lasting transformation. God does not control you through terror. He leads you through trust. His love invites, not coerces. It draws you in, not pushes you away. And when you respond to love, your faith becomes alive, sincere, and resilient. God's love gives you permission to let go of the past without denying it. You do not have to erase your history to move forward. God redeems what you thought disqualified you. He uses broken pieces to reveal his wholeness. Your story is not ruined. It is being rewritten by love. What you once saw as weakness becomes testimony. What you once hid becomes evidence of grace. Even your failures cannot cancel God's purpose when you are anchored in his love. Failure is not final when love is involved. Fallen does not end the journey. Refusing to rise does. And God's love gives you the strength to rise again. Not with arrogance, but with humility. not with shame, but with hope, not with fear, but with renewed trust. God's love is not distant philosophy. It is daily provision. It meets you in ordinary moments, in your work, in your rest, in your decisions, in your quiet thought. Love is not confined to sacred spaces. It walks with you into everyday life. God is present in the mundane as much as in the miraculous. This love does not disappear when the excitement fades. It remains steady in routine. You must guard your heart against voices that distort God's nature. Any voice that tells you God delights in your suffering, enjoys your shame, or withdraws affection when you fail is not truth. God disciplines with wisdom, not cruelty. He corrects to restore, not to humiliate. His love is firm, but it is never abusive. It is strong, but it is never harsh. God's love is the foundation of true confidence, not confidence rooted in ego, but confidence grounded in identity. You stand secure not because you are flawless, but because you are loved. This confidence does not boast. It trusts. It does not dominate. It serves. It does not demand. It gives. Loved people live differently because they know where they belong. There will be moments when obedience costs you comfort, when faith requires courage, when following God's guidance leads you into unfamiliar territory. But love gives you the strength to move forward without resentment. You trust the heart of God even when the path is unclear. Love assures you that whatever He leads you into, He will walk with you through God's love. Also calls you to surrender control. Not because He wants to diminish you, but because He wants to free you. Control is exhausting. Trust is liberating. When you place your life in God's hands, you are not losing yourself. You are finding yourself. Love teaches you that you do not need to carry what God has already promised to handle. You are not an accident of history or a random occurrence of nature. You are intentional. You are known. You are loved. God's love affirms that your existence matters, that your choices matter, that your life carries weight beyond what you see today. Even when you feel ordinary, God's love declares you significant. Let God's love redefine your prayers. Pray, not as a beggar hoping to be noticed, but as one who is already seen. Pray not with fear of rejection, but with confidence in care. Speak honestly, listen expectantly. Trust deeply. Love changes the tone of your conversation with God. It replaces anxiety with assurance. God's love is patient enough to wait for your growth and powerful enough to sustain it. He is not rushing you in frustration, nor is He abandoning you in delay. He works with purpose, not panic. Love moves at the pace of wisdom. And as you continue to walk, even imperfectly, His love continues to guide, correct, strengthen, and uphold you. Do not underestimate what happens when a person truly believes they are loved by God. Fear loosens its grip. Shame loses its authority. Hope rises. Courage awakens. Purpose becomes clear. Love transforms the inner world and the outer life follows. God is madly in love with you, not in a fleeting or emotional way, but with a steadfast, deliberate, consuming love that calls you to live fully, trust deeply, and walk confidently, knowing that you are held, known, and cherished by the one whose love does not fail. God's love is not fragile sentiment. It is covenant-level commitment. It is not a feeling that rises and falls. It is a decision rooted in His eternal will. When God sets His love upon a soul, He does so with full knowledge, full awareness, and full resolve. Nothing about you surprised Him. Nothing about your journey caught Him unprepared. And still His love did not hesitate. This is why you can trust Him. Even when you do not trust yourself, His faithfulness is not built on your stability, but on His own unchanging nature. God's love invites you into responsibility without crushing you with pressure. It teaches you to walk uprightly without walking fearfully. You begin to understand that holiness is not separation from life, but alignment with truth. Love does not lower God's standard. It lifts your capacity to live it. When you are loved, you are empowered to choose what is right, not out of terror, but out of reverence. Love transforms obedience from obligation into devotion. There is a maturity that comes when you realize God's love does not compete with his heart. Horrity. Many think love makes God permissive, but true love is purposeful. God's authority protects what his love values. He does not rule to dominate. He governs to preserve life, peace, and destiny. When he says no, it's because he sees what you cannot see. When he redirects you, it is because he knows where the road leads. Love guides with wisdom, not impulse. God's love also teaches you patience with the process of becoming. You are not finished, and God is not frustrated. Growth takes time. Healing unfolds in layers. Strength develops through testing. Love does not rush what must be rooted. God is not trying to turn you into someone else. He is refining who you already are. The work he began in you is intentional, and he does not abandon his work halfway. When you understand God's love, you stop interpreting hardship as punishment and begin to see it as preparation. Pressure is not proof of rejection. Often it is evidence of trust. God does not entrust responsibility to those he does not love. He shapes those he intends to use. And even when the shaping is uncomfortable, love remains the motive behind every step. God's love restores dignity to those who have lived bold under shame. Shame tells you to hide. Love invites you to stand. Shame says you are defined by your past. Love declares you are guided by purpose. Shame isolates. Love reconnects. God's love lifts your head without denying your humanity. It calls you forward without erasing your story. It gives you courage to be seen, known, and transformed. There is also a quiet wealth that flows from knowing you are loved by God. You do not need to announce it. You do not need to defend it. You do not need to prove it. It settles you. It steadies you. It allows you to walk through criticism without collapse and through praise without pride. Love people are not easily shaken because their foundation is not public opinion, but divine assurance. God's love teaches you discernment. Not everything that viewed is good for you. Not every opportunity is alignment. Love gives you wisdom to choose depth over distraction, truth over convenience, and purpose over popularity. God's love does not lead you into confusion. It sharpens your clarity. When you listen closely, you begin to recognize his guidance, not through chaos, but through peace. You were not created to live divided. One version of yourself before people and another before God. Love calls for integration. Integrity is born when you realize you do not need to hide from the one who already knows you completely. God's love frees you from pretending and invites you into wholeness. You become the same person in private as you are in public because love has removed the fear of exposure. God's love also redefines success. Success is no longer measured only by achievement, status, or accumulation, but by alignment with his will and faithfulness to his call. You stop asking only, did I gain? And begin to ask, did I obey? Did I trust? Did I walk in truth? Love shifts your ambition from self-exaltation to meaningful impact. There will be times when God's love leads you into solitude, not to isolate you, but to strengthen you. Silence becomes a place of renewal, not loneliness. In those moments, you learn that God is enough, even when everything else is stripped away. Love teaches you contentment without stagnation, peace without complacency. God's love also equips you to endure misunderstanding. Not everyone will understand your obedience. Not everyone will support your convictions, but love anchors you so deeply that external resistance does not derail internal resolve. You learn to answer to God before you answer to the crowd. Love gives you courage to stand alone when necessary and humility to walk together when possible. As you continue to live under the truth of God's love, you begin to reflect His nature more clearly. Your words carry more grace. Your actions carry more intention. Your presence carries peace. Love reshapes your influence. You become a living testimony, not through perfection, but through consistency rooted in trust. God's love does not fade with time. It deepens. What begins as assurance grows into intimacy. What begins as belief matures into confidence. You do not outgrow God's love. You grow into it. Each season reveals another dimension of His care, another layer of His wisdom, another expression of His faithfulness. And even now, as these words settle into your spirit, God's love is working. It is strengthening resolve, healing hidden wounds, awakening purpose, and calling you forward, not with force, not with fear, but with a steady, unwavering invitation that continues to draw you deeper into trust, obedience, and life shaped by love. God's love awakens responsibility in the soul without placing a chain around the spirit. It teaches you that freedom is not the absence of boundaries, but the presence of purpose. When you know you are loved, you no longer rebel against. You recognize it as protection. God's instructions are not restrictions meant to limit your joy, but pathways designed to preserve it. Love reveals that obedience is not loss, but alignment with what sustains life. There is a sacred strength that grows when you stop negotiating with fear and start agreeing with truth. Fear tells you to play small, to remain hidden, to avoid risk. Love tells you to rise, to step forward, to trust God's leading, even when the ground feels uncertain. God's love does not remove all uncertainty. It gives you courage to walk through it. You begin to move not because you feel ready, but because you trust the one who calls you. God's love also reorders your inner priorities. What once dominated your thoughts begins to lose its power. Approval, comparison, and control no longer sit on the throne of your heart. Love replaces anxiety with assurance and ambition with intention. You stop chasing validation and start pursuing faithfulness. Life becomes less about proving and more about becoming. There is healing that takes place when you accept that God's love is not seasonal. It does not withdraw in your dry moments or intensify only when you are strong. His love remains consistent through spiritual highs and lows. When your passion feels faint, His love remains bright. When your strength feels depleted, His love remains sufficient. You are sustained not by your emotional intensity, but by His enduring faithfulness. God's love invites you to forgive, not because pain was acceptable, but because bondage is not. Forgiveness does not excuse wrongdoing. It releases your heart from carrying what God never intended you to bear. Love empowers you to let go without becoming bitter, to remember without being trapped, to move forward without denying what was real. Healing flows when allowed to lead where pain once ruled. Begin to realize that God's love is deeply personal yet never selfish. As it fills you, it overflows. You become more attentive to others, more patient in conflict, more generous in spirit. Not because you are trying to be virtuous, but because love has reshaped your instincts. What God pours into you is meant to move through you. God's love also brings clarity to your identity. You are not what you produce. You are not what you lack. You are not what others fail to give you. You are who God declares you to be. Identity rooted in love is stable. It does not fracture under pressure or inflate under praise. It remains grounded because it is anchored in God's voice rather than human opinion. There are moments when God's love will ask you to release what feels familiar. Comfort zones can become cages if they prevent growth. Love does not always lead you where you feel safe, but it always leads you where you will be strengthened. God is concerned with your maturity than your convenience. And even when the call stretches you, love assures you that you are not alone in the journey. God's love teaches you to value timing. Rashing ahead without wisdom creates wounds. Waiting with trust builds strength. Love does not hurry what must be prepared. God understands the seasons of your life and works within them with precision. What feels delayed is often being protected. What feels slow is often being secured. You begin to recognize that God's love is not threatened by your humanity. Your emotions do not scare him. Your fatigue does not irritate him. Your need does not burden him. God's love is spacious enough to hold all of you. He invites you to bring your whole self, not a filtered version. In that openness, intimacy grows. God's love also reshapes how you respond to correction. You no longer hear it as condemnation, but as care. When love is the foundation, instruction does not feel like rejection. It feels like guidance. God corrects to protect destiny, not to diminish value. His love never separates discipline from dignity. As you continue to walk in this truth, you discover that faith becomes steadier, not louder. Confidence becomes quieter, not weaker. Strength becomes gentler, not softer. God's love matures you. It removes the need to perform and replaces it with the desire to be faithful. You learn to listen more, react less, and trust deeper. God's love gives you endurance when answers do not come quickly. You learn to wait without losing hope, to stand without becoming rigid, to believe without demanding control. Love teaches perseverance that does not harden the heart. Even in uncertainty, you remain anchored. You also begin to see that God's love is purposeful in community. You are not meant to journey alone. Love draws you into connection, accountability, and shared growth. Isolation weakens perspective, but love restores balance. God often speaks, strengthens, and confirms through others, reminding you that you are part of something greater than yourself. God's love never leaves you unchanged. If you remain open, it continues to refine motives, sharpen discernment, and deepen wisdom. You become more aware what aligns with truth and what distracts from it. Love teaches you to choose substance over noise, depth over display, faithfulness over fame. And through every season, every challenge, every quiet victory, and unseen struggle, God's love remains active, guiding, correcting, sustaining, and shaping your life from the inside out, continuing its work with unwavering intention and unending care. Now, let this truth settle into the deepest place of your being. Do not let it pass through your ears and fade into memory. Let it confront you. Let it question you. Let it awaken you. If God is truly madly in love with you, then you cannot continue to live as if you are forgotten, insignificant, or merely surviving. Love this powerful demands a response. Not a shallow emotion, not a temporary decision, but a turning of the heart, a realignment of life, a quiet but firm resolve to stop living beneath the level of truth God has spoken over you. Examine your life honestly. Look at the places where fear has replaced trust, where routine has replaced reverence, where distraction has replaced devotion, not with condemnation, but with courage. God is not exposing these things to shame you, but to heal you. His is inviting you to lay down what has kept you distant and to pick up a way of living rooted in trust, humility, and obedience. You do not change to earn his love. You change because you have encountered it. Decide today to walk as someone who is loved by God. Let that love shape how you speak, how you choose, how you endure, and how you serve. Let it give you strength to release what no longer aligns with truth. Let it give you boldness to pursue what God has placed in your heart. Let it give you peace in moments when answers are not yet clear. Loved by God, you do not walk alone. You do not walk without purpose, and you do not walk without hope. Draw closer to God not out of fear, but out of desire. Seek Him not because you are empty, but because He is worthy. Trust Him not because life is easy, but because His love is faithful. Let your days reflect a heart that knows it belongs to God. Let your choices echo gratitude rather than obligation. Let your life become a quiet testimony of what happens when a soul truly believes it is love. Stand up from this moment with renewed purpose. Lift your head with humility and confidence. Walk forward with faith that is steady, not fragile. And remember this above all else. No matter where you have been, no matter how long the road has felt, no matter how heavy your heart has grown, God's love remains constant, pursuing, restoring, and calling you to live fully in the light of His presence.